the season outright in a season which is here in collaboration with GamingMalta, Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, JACAP, and GX Trust. My name's Jake Sperry, bringing you all of the action here today from the MOZA Racing Malta GT Cup. We might find James Otter, we might not, who knows. But at least at this point in time, we now sit with a very strong battleground to find. Let's talk about the championship standings, because Adrian Manduka was able to hold on to the championship lead as he found himself with just enough points, but he takes over from Aaron De Battista, who held himself fourth position overall. Sheldon Muscat's second place moves him up into third position, but crucially, I think a points penalty has dropped his points haul down just a little bit, with Ryan Carabot picking up overall victory and bringing himself into the party in fourth position. Close as well with Sean Cassar, George Parge, and James Smith, who are fifth, sixth, and seventh on their efforts, with Denzel Agius in eighth and Bart Shush making up ninth position currently on the standings. But as far as last week went, it was an all-important battle. Ryan Carabot picking up the result ahead of Adrian Manduka, and Sheldon Muscat picking up a third place finish. De Battista would end up fourth, with George Parge in fifth and Denzel Agius in sixth. Just the 8 drivers on the lead lap, which went back to Gabriel Quattromani, whose late pit stop put him in ninth position. Abdel Mued Sahail in 11th, and Chris Gatt last on the front page there in 12th position. But let's talk about this circuit where we're at today, Oulton Park, a circuit that has a lot of history that is surrounded with it here in Tarporley, up near Liverpool in the United Kingdom. A 4.3 kilometre circuit with 17 corners and both chicanes being used, so both Britain's and Hislop's then, which will start to make overtaking opportunities even more difficult. So I would look now to the Shell Oils corner as the best place on the circuit to make a pass today, and then failing that, Druids Corner up the top of the clay hill and over to Lodge, where that final chance of throwing the dive down in on the inside will certainly work. So that's going to be what comes up on the horizon. But in terms of racing action, we are just moments away from it. We're just going to take a quick moment to step aside, because when we come back, we are going to be in full qualifying trim. Who will be on top when it comes to the third round of your MOZA Racing Malta GT Cup, powered by Intercomp?
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
And so we find ourselves moments away from qualifying action, from kicking itself off and underway here from Oulton Park. Jake Sperry, James Otter here along with to bring the ride along as we go. But a championship which you feel after last week is open to be a four-horse race between now and the end of the season. I don't think there are any guarantees out there. The top four drivers being Manduka, Karabot, Sheldon Muscat and Aaron De Battista, all four of them have shown they've got pace that can go out there and can challenge for this title.
All critically at different parts of races as well, obviously. I think that's a critical thing. Who's going to have the most consistency throughout all of the races? De Battista has been one that I've been keeping a very firm eye on, where he's been really good at the start, then not so good towards the end of his stint, and then it reversed at the last race. So completely different circuit this time around, could pose a different challenge.
It very much could, and we've seen so on many occasions out there running the international circuit, the world record set by Joseph Loke in a GB3 Tortoise MSV 022 back in 2023. I doubt they will be hitting the 128 mark around this circuit, which was very, very difficult with both chicanes of Britain's and Hislops, which does jut away the opportunity to have that big, long attack at Knickerbrook Corner. But what you've got around this circuit is opportunity to craft an overtake, which makes it a lot more different out there compared to some of the other races that you see over the course of the season, especially what comes up next with Snetterton and with Silverstone. It's very much a case of you have to earn the pass here, and you have to earn it by thinking at least four corners in advance.
Yeah, you get rewarded, don't you, around this circuit with the proposition of your lap. Think about exactly where you want to target, where your tyres are going to be at their best, where's your car going to be at best, of course, because this isn't going to be a kind of event where all the cars are the same. That we've seen that the Mustang has been a particularly potent in the sort of fast corners, but then the Audi really kicks it in the medium to short. So where you're going to be at your best is going to be very variant where you are on circuit. You've got to think about that.
Well, we are moments away from jumping onto circuit at a wet Oulton Park, it has to be said right now. And so dealing with a circuit that is pretty much as sodden as it gets when it comes to racing action, it adds a brand new element to these drivers who can keep it on the road and out of trouble as the rain falls here around this circuit just outside of Liverpool in Cheshire. So that's going to be worth a little bit of a look. Just the 15 drivers here today looking to try and put their times together on the board, still with that ever eclectic mix of cars out there and everybody searching for what will be the best to go through. We focus on Sheldon Muscat in the Bentley, who has been using that Bentley to get two consistent results. But this is a circuit where attacking the curbs is necessary in terms of getting it correct. But this is a weather condition which I'd try and stay away from them as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, you don't want to get caught up in all the spray around the circuit as well. As we've got plenty of people, just getting a bit caught out. De Battista just wants to get on with it, doesn't he, in the Audi? So he's very keen. Does the championship leader just want to get straight on with it around this circuit? Again, though, the rain, first time we've seen it this season as well, so they're going to have to adapt fairly quickly if they want to try and be at the top of their game.
Well, at the top, without any real fear, is where I'd expect most drivers to try and fight. Whoa! Sean Cassar off the road, and it's going to be followed in tow by Denzel Agius, so that'll be a return back to the pits. It is crucial to note that there is a case here of watch out for who is where and what drivers are where. There's no Ryan Karabot here today, so it's your top three, Manduka, De Battista, and Muscat, where the main focus is going to be on who finds time. Maya Lafela there in the Project Aversio McLaren out there at the moment, not showing the livery, but Maya is certainly looking for some good attempts to start this one. And on the lap, then we charge. Old Hall Corner, which is this fast right-hander for medium speed, opens up the opportunity on the exit. You now run down the avenue and over towards the Cascades, the long left-hander of turn number 3, which opens out towards the island section as they run over towards the lakeside bend. And I'd look at Maya here in terms of how you've got to try and navigate the lap. The Shell Oils corner pretty much is the make or break corner of the lap.
Yeah, especially in the wet as well. You're going to have to adapt fairly quickly. Going into the corner then, this is Shell Oils. Not willing to take too much of an inside line, willing to stay off the camber around the corner then is Maya Lerfer as she just heads down now through Hilltop and then, of course, into the kink of Knickerbrook. But, of course, you've got that little chicane right in the middle, which could pose a bit of a threat in the wet as well, because we've seen a few people getting caught out on this part of the circuit where people just not able to just adapt too quickly, maybe a bit of aquaplaning, but not so much of an issue for Maya.
Yeah, it's a downhill braking zone. Someone's taken the tyre bundle for a ride already down there at the Hislop chicane, which will certainly be eyes on where do you want to be out there on track. You don't want to be knocking into that. Up the clay hill right now, which is named for the clay that is there underneath as the main topography surface, and then into Druids. We go along here, this very important right-hand bend, looking to drive off of the exit and now run over towards the Lodge corner, and then that Deer Leap, which ends the lap. In some of the British Superbikes, for example, you do get air going up over this section. Sheldon Muscat currently the quickest on a 39.7, but over the line, Lafela fourth quickest, but ultimately a lap that's 3.2 seconds off the pace, so I wouldn't want to put too much stock in it. George Parge going third fastest in the number 7 Ferrari, with Denzel Agius into fourth.
Yeah, George Parge, no surprises, he's in there. He's always trying to mess up the front three a little bit, and I think with the rain falling, they have a consistent man, always willing to just put his name in there and really put some pressure, but nonetheless, still no surprises. De Battista Muscat separated by just 7 thousandths of a second, which is, again, no surprises between the men in first and third.
Yeah, so for those, they'd be looking around and saying, yeah, we've done good to start here. It's a 20-minute qualifying session. We've still got 15 minutes of it to go through, as there is David Vella-Dingley, who runs through the Britain chicane, which is a little bit extended out there as you try and go through. Quattromani now up to 6th. James Smith now into 5th position at 1.5 seconds off the pace here in qualifying. I look around at this middle sector of the lap, and these chicanes, it's so easy just to overextend through them and lose the time that you spent forever trying to gain. As Sean Cassar has gone to pole on a 39.7, a quarter of a tenth clear of Sheldon Muscat, 300ths clear of Aaron De Battista. That's a turn up for the books.
25 thousandths, 32 thousandths separating the front three. Cassar, again, willing to throw his hat in the ring as well. Fourth place man on 16 points overall as well, so no surprises. He's put himself there as Manduka finally improving on his lap time. The man in second place, now up to 5th place, but 8 tenths down on pole position at the moment. The Mustang not looking so strong at the moment.
Yeah, and so when you're looking around, Manduka stuck on 8 tenths of a second adrift, and now Denzel Agius has moved up to 4th position, so Manduka down in 6th will be looking around and thinking, what do I have to do to improve? Now, the Mustang is known for being very good on the power, and this is a circuit, I would say, which is anything but a power circuit. It definitely favours a car that is definitely more balanced out there than that Mustang, and so I look at Adrian Manduka. This is the medicine that has to be taken before the final 2 rounds of the season. I think would favour a bit more, trying to be as nimble as possible through the Britain chicane and up to the highest section of the circuit here.
And what will pose a bit of a further challenge for him, of course, is that he's also got so much power under his right boot, in which in the wet conditions is not going to help him. Here he comes through Hislop's, not bad actually, on that particular corner from the Mustang, as he then goes through into Knickerbrook. But, you know, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, here for Manduka in this qualifying session. If it's a dry race, he might be in a slightly better position, but I think, yeah, the Mustang is probably not going to be the best choice of car for this particular circuit on to the grass, but well held.
Yeah, you've got to be careful about the grass, and look at the time that Aaron De Battista's done. Breaks the 39s into the 38s, and basically raises the barrier by another 8 tenths of a second here for Adrian Manduka, who makes that rush over towards the line, crosses it and goes only 5th fastest at 8.5 tenths of a second adrift. Parge currently in 3rd, Cassar 4th, Manduka in 5th with Denzel Agius 6th. Aaron De Battista and Sheldon Muscat, the Intercomp VMD cars there, the Audi and the Bentley, the Aston Martin, I'll correct myself, they're flying right now. They're doing a wonderful job out there at what is effectively 6/10 clear of the rest of the pack. 4 drivers still to set a time at the moment. In Bartshuj, Abdul Moez Sahel, you got Konchek, who hasn't set a time, and neither's Chris Gapp.
I'll tell you what, the Ferrari probably would be a bit of a struggle around here as well. So Patrick's doing a really good job, actually, to put himself in third now, as he's just a little bit over 3/4 of a second down on pole position. But De Battista in the Audi looking so strong out there at the moment, is the championship leader, and he's willing to keep putting some further distance between him and the rest of the fielders. We've just got James Smith coming across the line. He's 7th overall, 1.2 seconds down from pole.
Yeah, that's definitely an improvement there in the over 40 club out there. I've seen some over 60s racing leagues out there in the world of sim racing. It's for everyone out there. It doesn't matter who you are or how old you are. You've always got the opportunity to go out there and race, as the likes of James Gatt there moving up then to 9th position. 8th for Maya Laferla. Quattromani now back into 10th position, the Lightning McQueen Ferrari, known as Team Ducky at the moment, it is said. But at the moment, this is going to be a very tough challenge out there, because I'm pretty sure in the world of cars, there's a case of not being able to run in the rain when it comes to oval racing.
I tell you what, though, appropriate conditions for a ducky, isn't it, out there at the moment, with it's really started to pour down out there as we're following Quattromani going through the right-hand. He'll want to get the power down as early as he possibly can, as he then goes down, well, so rather up the hill, and then takes that very sort of slow left-hander, but then very nicely taken, moves himself up a position to 9th, but still 3 seconds down.
Yep, so 9th place is good. It's not great, though, at the moment, and you still got 7/10 to find, so I would say you want to be top half here today because of how difficult it is to actually go out and overtake. So keep that in mind for these drivers looking to put those improvements in. Manduka has now gone 3rd quickest and is now about half a second off the pace of Aaron De Battista, but has just been going around setting laps, setting laps, setting laps. The wet tyres out here are the toughest to get into the operating window, because you're spending a lot of the time dancing about, wondering whether you can put your foot fully down to the floor. And so with the big chunky tyre that takes longer naturally to get the heat in what are very, very cold conditions, it's only natural that you spend 3, 4, 5, 6 laps actually getting the lap times in, actually putting the time in together to say, I can go quite a bit quicker.
I'll tell you what, though, that De Battista is willing to be actually a little bit closer to his co-compatriots around the field at the moment as well. He's actually quite close to I think it's a McLaren in front of him, so he's getting a nice tow potentially down the very limited straights that we have around this circuit here. And there he is, it's Sean Cassar actually down in 5th place. So a little bit of a tow here. De Battista willing to pay the gamble potentially of a bit of spray.
Yeah, this will certainly improve things as they go. A little bit of tow will help. Spray won't help with the visibility, but you look around here on this circuit, and it's a tightrope. It's an absolute tightrope. Everywhere you look, it's a case of the extremities of this circuit has itself a little bit of standing water here, there, and everywhere. They're actually having to duck through the final corner to avoid some of that standing puddling water, to avoid what's going on. You can't imagine how difficult it is as Sean Cassar moves up past Adrian Manduka into 3rd position. You can't imagine how difficult it is dealing with all the puddles out there on track. It's a massive case of make sure that you're keeping the rotation in the wheels, because the puddles definitely cause that aquaplaning effect where basically the tread of the tyres forget to touch the ground, and then you're pretty much there. Cassar pulls the car off to one side and says, I'm going to go back to pits, reset and go again. One of the great, I'd say, abilities that you can do within sim racing spheres is that you can just reset and go again. You don't have to wait before going back to the pits. Adrian Manduka now running through the Shell Oils corner with a 10th to find to move back up to 3rd place.
I think he's just left the pits, if I'm not mistaken. If not, though, either way, he's actually just slightly improving, a little bit over half a tenth, a little bit under rather half a tenth down from pole position. So starting to find a little bit of momentum now in the Mustang, which is pretty good. But De Battista not improving on his last lap, so stays with that 38.930. So we'll see if Muscat and Cassar can also improve on their lap times. But I tell you what, if Manduka could get anywhere near the front in a car that's probably not suited to the track in these kind of conditions, it'll be a bit of a dark horse, maybe a favourite tonight.
Yeah, so Sean Cassar could make a statement here by racing hard against his teammates of Muscat and De Battista, but Adrian... Whoa! Where did that come from? Going by. Yellow flags out. I think it was for James Smith there, potentially, who was struggling about there. That was a major, major moment going through Druids, and if you get it wrong through that small kink left before Druids, you're a passenger.
Oh, that was close, wasn't it? That could have really, really caused some major issues because, of course, if they have to repair the car with the very limited time they've got in qualifying, that could pose a further challenge for those around them. So very lucky to get away with it, but that lap will be all done and dusted.
Yeah, and so as they go, I think the whole circuit has become Oulton Lake at this point in time here, with just 6 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in qualifying. There is David Vella-Dingley, red number next to the name, and red in the case of online spheres out there in a set of Corsa Competizione means rookie out there. So 4 drivers with the rookie tag out there in terms of what they've got. You've got a couple silver drivers, which is your medium category, and then white means pro, and still with 3 drivers yet to set times of Gatchers and Sahel. I wonder whether they've had penalties to say that they are not allowed to qualify here for this session outwards, and then have to go from the back. If anything, a 16-car field, a little bit easier to start at the back.
Yeah, potentially, as well as it got a little bit wide there is David Vella-Dingley through the final corner, well, final-ish corner, if you will, as he goes flat all the way to the line. Will there be any improvement for him on this occasion? No, none on that one. He stays in P11 at the moment in the BMW. I'll tell you what, that one thing that does surprise me is we've got Cassar off of the track here. It looks like it might be a bit of a reset imminent. The BMWs are not looking particularly strong tonight as well. I appreciate there are a majority of rookies or in the silver category, but I tell you what, it does kind of surprise me because I thought the BMs would have been decent here.
I think they would be. It's a case, though, here with wet conditions that you've got a very tall car out there in the BMW, and so that higher centre of gravity doesn't lend itself well to wet conditions. You're fighting a little bit more for that traction, where you look at this Ferrari, for example, very low to the ground, very low center of gravity. And so through every corner, the balance is a little bit stronger, a little bit better out there for the rain. So I think the BMWs, while naturally I think they would settle well on this circuit, the issue they run into is the fact that it's wet and you're having to catch the slide a lot more than you would do, say, in the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, the McLaren, which is a little bit of a lower profile. Quattromani through the opening corner. De Battista still clear, still a 10th and a quarter in the back pocket, but that Audi, only Audi in the field, is proving its worth right now.
Tell you what, I've just had a quick re-look at that Manduka incident, by the way. That was all so close indeed. In that particular incident, he's lucky that he managed to get away with it and just diverting onto the grass and not losing it in these conditions as well, actually. We're currently on board with Aaron De Battista, then the pole sitter and the championship, contender for this season, of course, championship leader. Just chucking the car then down this main straight. Might be a slight tone, probably not actually looking at it from that particular angle, but 38.930 still leading the way. Plenty of opportunities to potentially close down the gap for those around him, but can he continue to improve on his lap?
Well, that's going to be where the questions are asked. Final corner approaches with 4 minutes to go. Another 1/10 of a second would surely be enough of a barrier, you'd feel, with what Aaron De Battista's been trying to navigate through. Up the hill to the line, 38.797. There's that 10th that he was looking for. And being now a 1/4 of a second clear at the front, I think it is very telling what this is going to be, as it looks like it's going to be wet all race long, as well as in qualifying. Muscat's down in the pit, so we'll only get maybe 1, potentially 2 laps to go and put things together. I look around at this and go, yeah, great qualifying so far from De Battista. You've still got Manduka, you've still got Cassar, but that's Denzel Agius pulling it over to the side, taking the reset back to pits. 1 second off the pace at the moment, P6. It's not bad. A little bit of an island for Denzel at this stage. George Page, little bit balked there, coming through the Cascades.
Yeah, getting a little bit blocked as well. I don't know if that person's on an in-lap or not, but either way, not particularly the best timing here for Patch. Usually a man who's completely on it at the moment, but getting blocked at the moment by Gat out there, the 10th place person in the McLaren. So I'm very keen to see how De Battista's lap time is going to go against Cassar, though, because Cassar is looking mighty fast at the moment in the McLaren. So Is that enough of a cushion? 4/10? Could be, but we'll have to see when his fast laps come in. 2.5 minutes to go.
They are allowed to start any lap that they have, or finish any lap, sorry, that they start once the checkered flag comes out and the clock hits 0 out there overall. But at least right now, George Parge finding himself trying to gear up for the next stages here over the top of the clay hill and over towards Druids Corner. Once again, looking around at the medium speed here, right-hand bend, double apex on entry, very difficult to get correct. It's uphill on the exit too, so it's very easy on the power to spin the car around as well. Never truly up or down as you head over towards that lodge corner, which ends out the lap outright, and then running through the deer leap as you charge on by. Parge then will know that this lap time won't be good enough. Still, one more attempt, maybe two. He might be able to cross the line with 1 or 2 seconds remaining on the clock. He crossed with 1:40 remaining as David Vella-Dingley runs wide through the final corner, and that's going to drop a bit of time, but already 4.5 seconds off the pace right now. We'll see what this is if it's improvement. It's a 41.2, but I fear there was an off track somewhere, so that one won't count.
Yeah, tricky. The BMWs are really struggling at the moment in these conditions. Not too windy out there, so it's just sort of the dampness out there at the moment causing the problems. So David Vella-Dingley currently down in P11. Keeping an eye out on Kassar as well, who's looking to try and improve on his lap. As I said, he's going to be probably the bit of a dark horse in this one. Manduka up to third, though, in the Mustang. Again, a car that we thought initially wasn't looking too strong around here, actually starting to pick up the pace a little bit at the moment is Manduka. But I think Kassar could be the one if he just gets the perfect lap in.
Well, that perfect lap, I think, is going to be what is required to stop Aaron De Battista's qualifying effort here today. Vella-Dingley up over the top of the hill is hoping for a second or more to find one place on the Lamborghini there of Gat in 10th place, really having to work the rotation of the car through the corners here, opening up and having a wiggle through the middle. That's certainly not going to help running wide like that out of Knickerbrook and back up the hill. So you really get a sense here that qualifying is starting to wane as the checkered flag is just about to come out here in session. Anybody now who's looking to finish a lap time is there. You've got De Battista out there. You've got the likes there of Sheldon Muscat, who's crossed the line and cannot improve in the number 14 Aston Martin. So is stuck back there at 1/4 of a second adrift. It will go to Adrian Manduka, where improvement may be made. Gat crosses the line, and that's Chris Gat, sorry, and stays in 13th position. Manduka now through the middle of the lap, needing to find this time, and knowing that he's about half a second adrift. He's managed to leapfrog Sean Kassar, which is important. But remember, Sean Kassar is also out there on a lap. He's just crossed the line and is unable to improve. It's just Manduka, De Battista, and then James Smith as the three drivers who have the chance to improve with a minute left on the clock to go and set that time in. Otherwise, the session will transfer over through the right, and it's deep. It might be too deep there from Adrian Manduka as he looked to push as hard as he possibly could. Now he'll make the run to the line. Is there still improvement to it? Answer's no. 1:40.0. You feel the lap went away at Lodge. It now leads Aaron De Battista over the line, who improves again to be 3.5 tenths of a second away from everyone else. That is a money lap.
Beautiful. Beautiful from the championship leader. Exactly what he needed to do to try and set that precedent going into the race. Muscat into second, though, is a great effort indeed from Sheldon. And then you've got Manduka, the man in second, in third. So the top three in the championship are in the top three for this one. Kassar in fourth as well, exactly matching that one. But again, Pache willing to get himself in the firing line. And that Ferrari, with the power unit in the back and the front end that it's known to have in terms of grip, is going to be quite positive in this particular race. I'd expect that team number 7 is going to be particularly potent in the race. He could be the spanner in the works for the front four.
Very much could be, and I think that is rather important to note that there are drivers here who could make something of it, especially in the early laps. I think the early laps are going to be the important ones to get you through to that next level, but we can only see that as and when the race comes around to us here with the MOZA Racing Malta GT Cup powered by Intercomp as part of a Velocity Esports racing production. We're going to jump away for just one moment. When we come back, we are going to be in race mode, and it will mean that for 45 minutes, it's edge of your seat stuff. Who is going to take the medium round of the championship, the middle round of the championship here from Oulton Park?
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavor, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
So a qualifying where Aaron De Battista has stamped his mark down after disappointments of missing the podium last time out. That is about as good a response as you could have possibly found there. And now as they set themselves ready, they've got one full pace lap to get the tyres into an operating window for 45 minutes worth of racing action, which will be coming along. Aaron De Battista would control the field. Sheldon Muscat, his teammate then, alongside him. Manduka, Kassar, Page, Agius, Smith and Lafela, your top 8. I would say this is a day-to-day where I look at Aaron De Battista and he wants to make a statement.
Of course he does after what happened last time out. He wants to try and set that early precedent. The question for him is whether he can transpose what has been a really good qualifying into a magnificent race victory. Now we're in a racing scenario. It is still raining out there, so they've got to now continue to understand the conditions around them, understand the car, understand how everything's behaving with each passing lap, because it could change. They've got to adapt. Who's going to be the best to adapt? Well, with 45 minutes, we'll find out.
We certainly will do. And it is worth noting as well, they have the one mandatory pit stop that is required between just after the first 5 minutes of the race and before the last 5 minutes of the race, and that is get your service done and leave the pits before the 5 minutes is up, which does catch out drivers, and it did catch a driver out last time we were racing just 7 days ago. So when it comes to this championship now, when it comes to these drivers who know that they've got to find that strategy, I think this is one of the few out there where I'd say run late, because the longer that these wet weather conditions are there and you're on the wet tyres, the more heat that you can generate into them. I think this is one of the cases where you need a tyre good in the operating conditions to go and be successful. And that's where I think success is going to be found as we drive straight through a car up over the top of the hill.
Yeah, they're just getting themselves ready for the what will be the rolling start of this particular race. But yeah, it's all going to be about how good these wet weather tyres are going to be versus you know, when they've pitted versus, you know, when they're just in the middle of their stint, perhaps. So are they going to do the 50-50 split that we've been seeing them do? Or is it going to be people that's going to say, you know what, the conditions are starting to dry out. I'd rather have almost a bit of a semi-slick as a BMW off of the circuit. They would really benefit if this track began to dry up. But according to these weather forecasts, as you can see in the top right-hand corner, it's going to be wet all the way through.
It certainly will be. So now it will be about managing the weather conditions, knowing that they're in for a sodden race, and just looking around there, that's Konchak who's going to have to fall back into line there around with Gat and the likes there of Shuj and Sahel. But for your top 3 in the championship, they are at the front 3 positions, and they'll look for a good run because they know how critical it is to get a very strong start. So 26 and 14 finding themselves in 1 and 2, but what can Adrian Manduka do to find himself an opportunity to jump up as championship leader in 3rd? It's important. Watch out for any jump starts then as they get themselves ready with pace. Very awkward staggered start as the drop of the flag goes. Aaron De Battista got that spot on when they were locked then to limit, making sure that he got the jump compared to everybody else. Kassar goes around, contact with Manduka, contact with Agius, and goes spearing off. There is the likes of him down into the grass there on the inside of turn 1. Immediate dramas befalling, and it's happened with a championship leader involved.
Yeah, I thought Manduka was at a really, really naff angle, as we would say, and he's gone into the corner and he's spun out. Kassar, I think, in a real big, what seems to be a bit of a tank slapper, tried to hold it, got the oversteer as a result of the hit, and then he's now all the way down at the back. Manduka up to 3rd, but there could be some questions from the stewards.
Well, we're not going to get the opportunity to have a second look at that in terms of where the incident happened, but ultimately, lap 1, turn 1, always a dangerous place to get it correct. And there, skittering across in 5th place. Is that Lafayette struggling there for a little bit of pace? So, sorry, we're a little bit further back. That would have been Borg, who was struggling then for a bit of pace in the number 66, going through the Britain chicane. Now through at Hislops that they go. There's Quattromani, happy with position right now. It may have even been Vela Dingley, who was having that little bit of a case of trying to find his water wings going through that section. But up the top of the clay hill, half a second then the gap at the front. But for the moment, he's getting busy behind that Lamborghini of Gat.
Yeah, the Rusty's okay. We've got people aquaplaning on off the circuit. They got caught off guard, broke too late, and as a result, they're going to lose positions left, right, and centre. Quattromani's going to be losing a few. We're on board now with David Vela Dingley, now back up to Muscat. De Battista, naturally, the fastest lap of the race. It is only the first lap, so we're going to see that lap time potentially increase. We'll see as people start to develop the race, start to develop their own races out there, but the gap still under a second between Muscat and De Battista. He's not letting him go at the moment, is the Aston Martin.
Well, as the Aston Martin looks to hold station, it's 0.7 of a second. Denzel Agius remaining close. What a start by Maya Lafayette. 3 places gained for her off of the run. And so now you start thinking about everybody else and what they need to do. Little wide going through the island corner and in towards that all-important next run through of Shell Oils. Off the road goes Lafayette. There goes 1 place. There goes 2. You never want to go off wide at Shell Oils corner when you consider it is on camber. You have a hard time getting back onto circuit. Abdul Muez Suhail up to 12th position. Biggest gainer so far, eyeing up Gat in the Lambo.
Seen a few people beach it on that corner actually as a result of it, so they'd be keeping a very firm eye on that one. A few people going wide as we've got Sahel actually going a little bit wide actually, going through the chicane. So keep an eye out as well as people start to develop their races, the tyres start to get a little bit thin, because if the rain is going to continue falling as they are, then you're not going to see people really able to adapt to the conditions and have clean laps all the way through, because it's just going to keep changing throughout the race. So it's about being the most adaptable you can, and at the moment falling in favour of De Battista.
Aaron De Battista is very happy with that position as things currently go, but now as they crest as they go, it's going to be George Parge who now looks to put himself in play, 4th position, eyeing up that 3rd, which is there from Adrian Manduca. And so the two Averso drivers, this is a really interesting scenario for them. I doubt that they're in communications with each other, but at this stage of the championship, when Manduca is having to defend the championship lead, last thing you want is your own teammate trying to siphon points off of you.
Yeah, potentially that could cause a bit of a challenge from a personal level, but at the end of the day, Patch will be saying, well, you know what, I'm actually the quicker driver at the moment, and I've got my own race to consider. Remember, he's in 6th place overall in the championship, is Patch, so every point he has will allow him to get closer to the front 3. Is he in for a title hunt? Maybe a question later down the line if things fall in favour, but with so little races left in this season, he's going to be looking to try and get as close as he can to the final 3.
Yeah, and so for George Parge, I would argue that this is a case of learning right now, seeing what Adrian Manduca does, his own teammate, understand the levels of which you need to go to find that pace of improvement. And for George Parge now, it's about, how do I go? Currently in that 5th, 6th, 7th place scrap, which will now be a 4th, 5th, 6th scrap with no Ryan Carabot here today. So I would look at this as a golden goose opportunity to build points on Denzel Agius, on James Smith, on those drivers behind, and even Sean Cassar, who has battled valiantly back up into 10th position after that spin on the opening lap. So there are certainly chances. 5 minutes on the clock then has advisedly passed. Pit windows open. Fastest lap of the race. It's actually with Sheldon Muscat.
Yeah, Muscat's not letting De Battista go that easily at the moment, to be honest with you. But Pache almost doing exactly the same thing with Manduca. You're right. He is going to learn where he's the Ferrari's probably got a little bit more grip in and out of the corners. And I think one thing he will have learned straight away is Manduca out of the corners is getting a little bit temperamental, as we've got someone in very early indeed, and it's Cassar.
It is, and Sean Cassar, who might have a bit of damage then from what happened in the opening stages there, the opening corner. And look at the left-hand side of the car. Absolutely scraped to Kingdom Come there with damage. And so I am not surprised to see that car in early, getting service, getting a bit of clean air out of the way, and now using those laps on his own will be his plan to try and rush away from the rest of the field. Brakes again down at the bottom of the hill. Very difficult to get it correct at the bottom of the hill then, heading to Hislop chicane. You are reliant on the car stopping, and often it does pull up in puddles down at that section. Very difficult on a wet track.
Tell you what, I'm following Gat and Sahel at the moment. These are the Ferrari and the Lamborghini cars out there at the moment. Now, Gat's been struggling with the power of the Lamborghini throughout this season. In this particular one, struggling a little bit with the wet conditions, but actually out of the corners looking fairly sharp is that Lambo. So keeping Sahel at bay in 10th and 11th place at the moment, as Muscat, I think, has made some kind of mistake, because he's actually lost 6/10 on De Battista on that last lap. So unless De Battista's had an absolute blinder of a lap, I think Muscat's now starting to struggle just a little bit, as we've got potentially a move here for Sahel, who's going to go down the inside, then he's going to get squeezed onto the grass. Oh, and he spun it, and he's in the wall.
Tyres in the grass, in the rain, trying to make the pass. That is about as hero as it gets. And there you see the response to it. Muez Sahel, as zero as it gets, moving up the top, and now we'll have to try and continue on. It was always going to be difficult. Gat made the mistake at Druid's corner there, getting wiggly on the exit going by, and then ultimately it's a case of not much room being given, and the question will be asked, was enough room given at that section of circuit? George Parge again, staying resolute behind Adrian Manduca, but that gap now almost clawing up to 1 second here. It's a slow fall away, as there is Joseph Konchak for himself right now in the BMW, looking around at Borg for place. This would be for 14th.
Ooh,
That's a little bit ambitious there, going through at the Cascades, but ultimately it's a case of, well, I've got drive through the middle of the corner and I can pull away.
Yeah, a little bit late there from the BMW. Both BMW drivers as well, so they'll be experiencing similar problems in these wet conditions here tonight. But leading the BMW race, if you will, actually, is one of the rookies as well. It's David Vella Dingley in 8th place, leading the way at the moment. Yet to make a pit stop, of course, with the pit window now open, 30 minutes to go for that one. But the BMWs, again, not looking particularly strong. But the two Vella Dingley also got someone going off there, going off the road there, and that's going to allow an overtake there. So again, Koscheck just getting the move done. Yeah, they're really struggling out there, aren't they, at the moment, these BMWs? But David Vella Dingley and Bart Zhizh at the moment doing a decent job in 8th and 9th place, respectively.
Yeah, they really are doing well, but you've got to remember Sean Cassar is going to be the hot hand with Clean Air trying to build that time, so could very much get the leapfrog on them in the pit stop window, which is open. So Johan Borg back now to 15th position and having to really work hard to try and gain those places back once more. It is also interesting between the 89 and the 1. I know it's a 2.5 second gap at the moment, but I do want to pay a little bit of focus between Denzel Agius and Jamie Smith, as there is James Smith in the number 6 Aston Martin running through the Britain chicane and now looking to try and chase down Denzel Agius at 2.6 seconds. This is where I look around at these drivers who aren't necessarily getting podiums, but they are getting consistent top 10 finishes, and that's giving them points, and that's giving them opportunities in this championship to say, we can fight for a top 5.
And this is the thing, if this was a 7 or an 8 race championship, that would have been a massive benefit to them in case one of them ends up making a bit of a mistake. We're just following Sahel at the moment. He has got damage from that incident, remember, earlier on with Gat. So we've now got the ever the quick Gabriel Quattromani in the Rusty's Ducati Ferrari, looking to try and get this move done as quickly as possibly can. But if I was Sahel, I'd be considering a pit stop. Look at the rear end of that car, got absolutely smashed up when he crashed into the wall when doing that spin earlier on. So I think he's probably going to be in the pits very soon.
Yeah, so with all of those troubles, I would say quick, get that one back home as soon as you can. Rushing about then is Quattromani down in 12th, looking at Abdul Muez Sahel at 0.8 of a second down the road. The two Ferraris are there together as it currently stands and are working together to try and build themselves up momentum at this point, knowing that they've dropped about 10 seconds back off of Gat and knowing that there is a charge still to be had. There's your leader by comparison, Aaron De Battista. He certainly hasn't been given a leash to run away with, still a 2.5 seconds. So by no stretch of the imagination is Aaron De Battista having everything his own way, but the way they've run from the Averso drivers, I think here, your top 2, this is a statement of intent here in the rain.
Intercomp looking fairly strong actually here tonight, to be honest with you. But De Battista within around about 0.4 of his fastest lap at the moment. But Muscat is faster. He's managed to find at least a couple of tenths on De Battista on the last lap. So obviously finding a little bit more pace now in the Aston Martin in this part of the race. Is the Audi of De Battista starting to begin maybe a long-term strategy in terms of the pit stops? Is he wanting to go a bit longer, so he's just easing off the gas a little bit? Or is Muscat beginning to put the pressure on and finding a little bit of pace, I wonder?
Oh, and that's Bart Zhizh finding himself off the road. This will now be a very awkward scenario as that McLaren, then I think that might even be, that's Vella Dingley through. That's Sean Cassar who's trying to get around, and this won't be full position. This will be to find a lap out there. He's currently 2 laps down, which I find staggering out there at the moment. That's just how much damage I think that Cassar's had to deal with. It's a very short pit lane here. So for Sean Cassar to get all the damage repaired, to say, right, I'm sorting them back out there and going again, that's a lot of work to get back into position.
Yeah, it was a big hit, to be honest with this. It doesn't surprise me that he's lost as much time as he has. Quattromani would be wise to get past Sahel as quickly as he possibly can. Sahel's still not pitting, despite the fact that he's lost so much pace in comparison to his last laps, and that's due to that damage from that earlier incident with Gat. So Quattromani really needs to get his skates on if he wants to try and earn as much time as he can and potentially get himself at least a good points haul out of the end of this race.
A good points haul would be vital, and making sure that there are charges up towards the likes of the top 10 in the championship. So Quattromani happy to sit in the toe of Abdul Muez Suhail, who dances about then through the left-hand corner. And you can see the weather vanes on the top there, the sensors on top of the Ferrari there. Almost looks a little bit out there, those small tuning fork style bits there, James, that it looks very much like someone's left an Allen key in the top of the car.
Yeah, one hell of a design, to be honest with you, sticking an Allen key right at the top of the car. Not the most aerodynamic way to get it done, but at least the cars will be easy to detach. But he's getting closer and closer here to Suhail. Is he going to get the move done, I wonder, on this particular lap? Because Quattromani is keeping that pressure on. Oh, he's a little bit wide out the corner. Not going to be the ideal line, I don't think, here. And that's going to allow Suhail to potentially defend into the next corner. But he is getting closer and closer. Is that Rusty's Ferrari? But on this occasion, Suhail still able to hold on. The rookie doing a decent job considering the damage. Oh, and off the track, Partridge.
Yeah, that's going to be Vela Dingley off the road. Bart Schuch is going to, in the D-Rank squad racing BMW, pick up best Beamer in class and go up to 8th place with a pass like that. Very easy to run off at the Lodge corner, because you are looking at how late can I brake to turn in, and then you're turning down the hill, and you are petrified through that final corner, James, of spinning the car on what will be effectively a white water rapid.
Oh, and the thing is, as well, the BMWs are looking so difficult to drive out there as well, so that risk is even more heightened, unfortunately, for the likes of Barches, for Vela Dingley, and for those down at the back as well of Bork and Kozhek as well. Here comes Quattromani, who are back on board with the man in 12th place, still putting pressure on Suhail as the trees are getting in the way, but Suhail still able to put a gap, or at least edge a gap of around about a second between him and Quattromani, despite the damage, doing a really good job considering what he's having to manage. But of course, when he makes that pit stop, that damage has got to be repaired. He is losing so much time at the moment, and Quattromani is paying the price for it.
Yeah, and so for Quattromani, I would look around and say, where can you find that time? Struggling through the middle of the Britain chicane. And again, these drivers are closing in, though, now on GAT, down to 3 seconds. So the Lamborghini, I think, is the slowest of the 3 cars here, and could be under threat soon if they are not too careful. So keep your eyes peeled on that happening, as we are 15 minutes through, so 1/3 of the race distance clear at this stage. Aaron De Battista clear by 2 seconds over Sheldon Muscat. Adrian Manduca a further 6 seconds back of that at this stage. We focus to him down at the bottom end of the circuit, and it's impossible to keep your eyes down there at that section of the road. That's why they have 2 commentary boxes here around this circuit. You get one of the main commentary box out there, which is right on the exit of the pit lane, and the other one is the fan favourite commentary box, which is down at Knickerbrook Corner.
Doesn't surprise me at the moment that Manduca really struggling out there at the moment. The Ford Mustang is not particularly strong, not just at this circuit, but in these kind of conditions as well. So he'll have to just accept that he might be in a bit of a no man's land at the moment, because Pache 5 seconds back. 3 seconds, or rather 2, I think it's about 6 seconds now, isn't it? Yeah, about nearly 7 seconds actually to Muscat at the moment. So deep into no man's land at the moment is Muscat, as we're now following once again our championship and race leader Aaron De Battista, 2.2 seconds in front of Muscat, gaining time with every passing lap, and into the pit lane he is.
Yep, so this will be an inspired decision to jump into what is the shortest pit lane out there here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. You've got to run all the way down to the end garage if you're De Battista, or second to last garage, because Sheldon Muscat's going to get the one in front. They will now take service and get themselves fuel, I would say, only around here. It will now leave Adrian Manduca out there to overcut, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily in terms of this race. It allows Adrian some time to work out what laps he wants to do, how quick he wants to run, and knowing that the drivers behind, yeah, they are going to have the ability to rush, but they're going to have to navigate through traffic.
Don't think Manduca is going to be much of a threat to the likes of De Battista and Muscat, so I think they're just going to manage their own race out there at the moment. But I tell you what, as we're just seeing them leave the pit lane, is there going to be any people around that haven't pitted yet that could pose a threat? Yes, Bart Schuch, would you believe the BMW of all cars is potentially going to hold up the Audi, and that could pose a serious threat for the race distance. He's going to have to hope he gets this move done as quickly as he possibly can.
Well, Vela Dingley wasn't much help either there for the likes of what was going to be Sheldon Muscat. Bart Schuj, middle of the road, defending the position, trying to go around the outside. Now, you need to be at least 2 seconds a lap quicker to find a pass. Great drive off the exits. Now going to try and make something happen at the Britain chicane.
Oh,
He's going to be on the outside searching for it. And this is exactly what Manduka wants. This is exactly what Muscat wants. Look at him. He's closed up that gap. He's pulled himself right up alongside now and will have to go around the outside of Hislop's to get it done. The Aston Martin looking for a way through. De Battista covers off the line, but now the race is on.
Oh, Muscat has just paid every cent of his cash over to Bart Schuj for that one. That is an absolute stonker of a situation for the Aston Martin. He's going to want to try and keep up that pressure, but they don't want to get into any kind of collision though, of course. Remember, these are Intercomp teammates. They don't want to end up in a position where they both end up back in the pit lane with damage. Here comes out of the corner. Has De Battista got the pace versus the BMW into the corner? I think he's going to have it. Down the outside, Bart Schuj will have to hold, but he's not going to have the traction. Muscat is going to want to get this done as quickly as possibly can, and this race might be on. Is he going to get the toe? He's going to have to go straight into turn one and have this corner done. Oh, the race is on between the Intercomps, and Bart Schuj is off.
Yeah, that's a push through there from Sheldon Muscat. That was brutal from the reigning champion to decide that's how I go. Manduka's had to cover off the move, and he's just come out of the pits. He'll still have to get by Bart Schuj for a position then going on by, but at least right now Aaron De Battista's got his clearance, but he's only got 0.6 of a second, and it depends how big that lap of being bottled up underneath, how riled up you have to be, is going to make a change out there in this race. De Battista now still holding the net race lead, but I would look around at everybody else and say that Sheldon Muscat does not want to be that driver that sits there and can't get a win in this championship. Up the hill, down by 11 points. There's Jamie Gatt in the pits, and it's worth noting as well that we've lost Konchek from this field, so down to 15 runners.
Yes, a shame that one for Konchek as well, but keeping an eye out on De Battista, and sorry, that's Abdul Mayer Sohail struggling a little bit as well. Remember, he still needs to make his pit stop. He's got the damage on the car as well as Quattromani, actually losing time at the moment. Abdul Mayer Sohail, he's up into 10th, trying to close down on the likes of David Vela Dingley, but I tell you what, Muscat has not been able to get the attention of De Battista. He's just found his mojo, found his rhythm again, and the Audi still just managed to pull a second out of Muscat, and maybe De Battista not as vulnerable as what we once thought, despite the cars that were in front of him.
Well, it was a case of must make, and you only get one opportunity that presents in that sort of scenario. So for Sheldon Muscat, when pace is similar but slightly slower, you knew that was going to be an important moment in the race, and you can see how hard Aaron De Battista is pushing there, right over the AstroTurf there on the right-hand side, or some of that netting that's always there down at the section of turn 3. So, Quattromani in the pits, having to Austin Powers.
Oh, wow, okay, and Austin Powers, certain moment as well, as he just goes backwards and forwards and a bit of a lock-up. I'm wondering if he's slightly aquaplane, maybe going into the pit lane, loses time as a result as well, so that could be fairly critical. Remember, he's racing with the likes of Sohail, but back on board with Sheldon Muscat, who, by the way, has found 0.3 of a second on De Battista. Has De Battista struggled on this lap? Has there been a slight mistake, maybe, from the Audi? A little bit of complacency, I wonder, Jake?
Well, there are questions about it. Of course, on that last lap through, remember, had to deal with the traffic, but I don't think they're fully out of the realms yet. Sheldon Muscat is throwing what he can out there, and remember, he will get the benefit of the slipstream out there, so I don't think it's as plain sailing as Aaron De Battista can walk away at this point as they rush through Druid and over towards the bridge there, which is the main entrance to the circuit. You go up over the bridge and onto track there, but now once more heading to Lodge Corner, where the Eastgate entrance finds itself, the wonderful traditional entrance to this track and to the section of circuit adjacent to the pit building, and Sheldon Muscat still holding himself there, but 1 second the margin. Manduka finding himself sat in, as you've still got Sohail and Gatt, who are now in the pits, but now Manduka's got to get by Bart Schuj.
midfield goggles are now going on my face at the moment, Jake, and I'll tell you what, the drivers of the day, if you will, of the midfield, James Smith and Maya Lafurla, they have been absolutely fantastic in the Aston Martin and the McLaren, and that is a good points haul for the midfield here, as we've got Manduka trying to get past Bartjes. Is he going to make it easy? I wonder, going into the going around the outside, and on this particular occasion, the Aston Martin and McLaren doing a decent job at the moment in the midfield as this battle continues to brew. Is he going to go down the inside line, Manduka, on this occasion? No, again, keeping that pressure low on Bartjes.
Well, you have to earn this pass if you're Adrian Manduka, but surely if you were in Manduka's shoes, you would be flashing the lights and doing everything to say how upset you are in this position, because Bart is not Adrian's fight. And it's as simple as Bart's still got to make a pit stop. Yes, he can fight for it on track, but he still is in a position where he will lose all that time in a pit stop.
Manduka, though, is in a little bit of a no man's land. He's lost the rear. He's lost the rear. He's got that is costing him big time there as well. Manduka, I think, is getting caught a little bit in the dirty air of the BMW, and that is actually causing more problems than maybe perhaps meets the eye for the Ford Mustang. As I said, he's in a bit of a no man's land at the moment, so he won't mind having a bit of a race, even if it's with someone he's not technically racing with, but preferably not at the potential risk of his entire race.
Well, the question that you look at is how much of a nothing burger is this race going to become? Bart very graciously pulls in for the pits as Denzel Adjis and Maya Lafurla are now both in pit lane, as well as Johan Borg in the pits, and effectively a lap down. Off the Jackson away goes Denzel Adjis, and now we'll look to go into the final stage of this one here, or the second half of the race, I should say. We've still got 20 minutes and a couple drivers who have yet to pit. James Smith is one of them, currently 16.5 seconds down on a very quiet, unassuming George Page.
George Page just, again, it's another man who just manages his own race, and he's been like that all the way through the season. He'll continue to be like that, will the number 7 Ferrari. On board with Kassar, it's been a little bit of a topsy-turvy race, hasn't it, for the McLaren. He's now racing with Gat once again, and the gap is opened up for Gat, unfortunately, for a little bit of a late breaker. They'll go side by side coming out of the chicane, but the Lamborghini will not have the traction out of the corner. Kassar made that one look a lot more easier than last time.
Yeah, and knowing that out of the pits are Shiz and Lafurla, it's going to be a long old chase to get to them. So 9th maybe at best is what Sean Kassar is now capable of, and this will drop points for Sean in the battle out there with the likes of Page and Adjis and Lafurla, who want to try and prove what they've got out there. Sean Kassar happy, I would say, as possible, as now in come your leaders. George Page and Jamie Smith are both in the pits, which means that Aaron De Battista is just moments away from re-inheriting that race lead, and that gap has extended back out again to where it was before the pit stop. 2 seconds.
Midfield goggles back on again. Let's see where Page and Jamie Smith comes out versus Kassar. Remember, 4th, 5th and 6th in the standings respectively. And of course, Bart Zhuge as well in 8th place is also in that scrap as well. But then you've got Maya Lafurla, who's leading all of them. She's in 8th overall in the standings. She could earn big tonight as a result of this one. So the midfield certainly getting a little bit of a mix-up as a result of this race.
Yeah, Lafurla here in 7th position is doing a wonderful, wonderful drive. And this is putting a lot of drivers on notice, I would say, with the way that things have gone. I know that these conditions naturally open out the racing. We've certainly seen that here in the rain at Oulton Park. But I'm looking around and saying, well, what do you gain? It doesn't matter whether you're a minute behind the car in front of you or 5 seconds, 5/10 even, behind the car in front of you. Points are still the same, no matter what the gap.
As of about 4 minutes to the number now, we are now exactly halfway through this season, and answers on a postcard of who you think the standings are going to look like at the end of this one. One thing is for certain, however, is Aaron De Battista is certainly trying to get one hand on that trophy, leading the way at the front at the moment. 30 points overall in this particular season so far, with plenty of laps still remaining. That's points haul surely going to continue to grow.
I'd look around at these standings, and as they sit, Manduka came in with 48 championship points, Aaron De Battista on 46, so this would be, I would argue, an 11-point swing in the championship were they to finish like this, and most likely they will. So Aaron De Battista should have a 9-point buffer heading to Snetterton in 7 days, and that gives you a little bit of hope and confidence there that you are almost at double digits in terms of the lead. It's been a very close and narrow championship at every point, but this stage, Aaron De Battista, the way he drove in round one, the way he's driving here tonight, I'd say he is the favourite with the way that he's going about. Getting busy in the mid-pack right now. David Vella Dingley here trying to chase down Quattromani, and I think that's Gat who's fallen to the back of that group. So for Gat, back to P13 even at this point. So of 12th is going to be there, a little bit deep into the corner. Quattromani will have a chance to break away.
Yeah, again, the BMW struggling with understeer on this particular circuit. One thing that I'm keeping a firm eye on, though, now is going to be George Pash, because he pits a lot later. BMW off of the circuit again, understeering. The Lamborghini doing exactly the same thing, I think, to avoid a collision with the BM. But George Pash pitted later than everyone else, and if he's changed his tyres, or at least put himself in a position where that might be the case, then maybe, just maybe, he's going to be considerably faster versus everyone else. So keep an eye out on that Ferrari, because I think he might be on the back of Manduka a lot sooner than you think.
At the moment, I would say that George Page is certainly in position to try and make something happen here and maybe put some pressure on late, but this is going to be very tough. A lot of styrofoam around there as they head to the Lodge corner. That's certainly not going to be doing anybody any favours out there, but at least for the moment, George Page sits there 16 minutes away, but that gap has just opened up now to 4 seconds, so I think it's starting to trend the other way. Good gap over Denzel Agius, but 4th place. Don't shake a stick on that for car 7.
And keeping an eye out here on the car number 5 of Maya Lafurla as she's just going through the chicane, trying to put James Smith under pressure. Remember, this is the battle in the midfield. George Pash leading the way in 4th place in the midfield at the moment. But I tell you what, James Smith and Maya Lafurla very happy to get in there at the moment as they try and close up on the gap on the likes of Bart Giz, who's not having a particularly great race. Gabriel Quattromani not having a great race either, so they'll extend their gap on those behind them as well. So yeah, I do think that midfield's going to get a little bit of a mix-up as a result of this race.
Yeah, and so with that mix-up, I think that it's going to be a lot of looking at championship points. Where do I fall out because of it? And where everybody sits. And George Page still in 4th position, still those 4.3 seconds to chase down. It's in a very tough position to go and navigate by. Aaron De Battista happy and comfortable at the front of this field and coming up on 2 cars in front. And I've seen one of the most amazing things on this Monaco weekend. It's very much like watching Carlos Sainz there just in front and realise that Aaron De Battista plays the role of Tadej Pogacar, seeing them cycling about on Monaco weekend.
Oh, lovely jubbly as well. Looking forward to that one, alongside Indy 500 as well. So a big weekend of racing across the real sports sphere. But in the esports sphere, the racing continues to get more and more intense as the heat of the weather still not lifting up, to be honest with you. Still getting more and more wet out there, but De Battista able to just manage his own race and do a decent job. But he has got a couple of lap cars now in front of him. Could allow Muscat to close up the gap, but the gap is about 3 seconds. It has only been growing ever since they've closed up as a result of the lap cars. So we'll see how this one turns out. Hopefully not going to be too much of a challenge.
Well, hopefully not, but there is still a case of how do you navigate by. Is advisory not mandatory to move out of the way, but that was pretty brutal there from Aaron De Battista. Just give it a lot of the right foot, go on by, and for Chris Gapp, who now moves to 2 laps down in this race, that's just the difference maker between being comfortable and being not out there in a car. So that there for Aaron De Battista. Easy as you like. Gap's still 3.2 seconds over Sheldon Muscat. No worry, no harm. This is about just bringing the car home.
Oh, brilliant, 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 to be honest with you. Just saw the opportunity, got it past him, and didn't let Gat ever be a challenge that actually may have ended up benefiting the likes of him versus Muscat. The gap is still around about 3.1, so yeah, not too bad, to be fair, between the pair of them as Gat stays out of the way. Just following him then as he goes up the hill and then across the start-finish line to start his next lap here, the 19th lap around here. 13 minutes to go, 8 minutes left of the pit window. Not much of an issue anymore because everyone has now pitted.
Yeah, everyone's got their mandatory stop out of the way. It would only take some pretty sizable damage to make life a little bit more troublesome. Maya Lafurla then is still in a nice position. 1.5 seconds behind Bartshish, who's done actually very well over the pit stop window by delaying that pit stop again, has certainly gained from drivers who have maybe pitted earlier. They've got 18 seconds here over Sean Cassar. If these drivers start battling hard against each other, which Bartshish has certainly proven today to be a swashbuckler on the defence, then they might let Sean Cassar in. And it seems weird to say that 18 seconds, 12 minutes, seems almost impossible to chase down. Remember, Sean Cassar's got the sorts of pace to have been challenging Adrian Manduka today.
How has Bartshish managed to get that BMW up to 7th? It's been an absolute dog of a car throughout this entire race. And do you know what? Really managed so well from Bartshish as well. Remember, 7th place overall in the championship. 7th place is where he currently is. He's only matching his performances here as we've got Shish going a bit wide, as I've said that one. And that might end up offering Maya Lafurla an opportunity in the McLaren. Gap now 1.5.
And it will close here over to 0.6 of a second after the sector has gone through. So now through Old Hall Corner and the rush along the avenue. Denton's is the small flick to the right. And then the Cascade, which follows along. That next all-important long left-hand bend. Very easy for the back to step out on turn-in. And you're very reliant on the aerodynamic downforce of the car to keep it planted around this section. Rounding Lake Oulton here with the island bend and over to the Shell Oils corner here at the far end of the circuit. It's a tiny place of solitude. You don't often see many fans lined up around that section of the circuit, but Lafurla dropping 3/10 of a second then through the opening sector or so, having work to do through the middle. So that BMW able to plant a bit of acceleration down, which I think is very telling.
Yeah, so able to get the traction down, so the rear looking pretty good, but the front is looking atrocious. It's like it doesn't have a front splitter, does the BMW. It just washes out so wide, but he can counteract that with a little bit of boot full of power, and I think that's how he's managing it at the moment, but that could cause the rears to wear a little bit thin, so he'll just have to manage that at the moment, but Lafurla falling back a little bit, back down to 1.3 seconds this year, as we've got a drive-through penalty, and it is for Sahel.
Abdul Muez Sahel has hit the instant limit and is going to have to trundle down through the pits. Now, the good news is that it's the weakest penalty that you'll see all season long for instant points, but it is going to take him away from the likes of Gat, and he'll look behind a little bit more towards the likes of Johan Borg. So for Abdul Muez Sahel, what has been a tough day for him today in the Ferrari, now it's a case of, well, gather it back up. Going to have to go through the pits one more time.
Do feel for him a little bit, to be fair. He's had a little bit of a mix-up of a race, hasn't he? Been involved in incidents. He's been off the track a few times, and now the drive-through penalty is going to be applied. As you said, it is the weakest penalty in terms of penalty points. It's also the weakest penalty in terms of what he could get from a drive-through perspective out of all of the 5 circuits on this calendar, because, of course, it's a significantly short pit lane here. So I would expect that he's going to come out. He probably might just get in front of Borg, but it is going to be a bit of a race ender in terms of a race with Gat.
Yep, so that now here for Sahel, rushing through Druid's Corner. It will have to be served, otherwise it's going to be a very hefty penalty added on at the end of the race. And so hitting the brakes then through the next right-hander then of Lodge. There is Gat in front, and this will be a case of, do you go immediately? So no is the answer, and so that's going to leave an interesting scenario. I'd say that if you were Gat in this situation, do that. Run very wide through turn 1. Let him go through and realise, I'm going to get that back when he has a drive-through.
Yeah, no point battling with him, especially if you're in a car that you can't really control throughout this entire season.
Bart's got a drive-through.
Struggle as we have going on wide, and got a drive-through penalty for Bartshish as well, and that is so disappointing for the BMW because he has managed that race so well, and that will be a massive smile for Maya Lafurla. Is straight into the pit lane to serve it. Maya Lafurla is going to jump Bartshish in the standings.
Now watch Sean Cassar as well, because Cassar could jump this too. Here comes Sean up over the top of the hill, looking to try and launch that place with 8 minutes to go. Where is Bart? Look, he's just about going up to speed, so Sean Cassar gets a freebie.
That's a freebie, and that's certainly what he needs as well at the moment after what has been a really topsy-turvy race. He's now up to 8th place. Is the man 4th place in the standings? He's still going to take a hit, but it is very much damage limitation. That will help.
It will certainly do wonders here for Sean Cassar, knowing that it's now 8th place and it's just 9 seconds to chase down, effectively, with 7 minutes 40 on the clock. He's chasing at a rate of knots where Lafurla is not safe.
No, not safe out there at the moment as well. James Smith doing a decent job in 6th place as well. Denzel Agius, what a race from the McLaren as well, up in 5th. He's had a cracking race, but we're on board now. David Velladingley, now Denzel Agius. No, go Quattromali. No, we'll go David Velladingley. Absolutely cracking from the other BMW, the finest of all the rookies out there at the moment in 11th place. His nearest co-compatriot is, would you believe, Sahel with the drive-through penalty 10 seconds back. So if it's going to be a rookie race of the day, rookie driver of the day, David Velladingley is your man also in the BMW.
Yeah, and doing a very nice job on the back of Quattromani there, the silver category driver just in front. So there is still that to try and navigate through, and a top 10 will give eyes of grandeur to David Velladingley as he runs through this chicane, looking to try and get it nicely turned in, fighting a little bit for grip on the exit, but manages that. 6.5 minutes remaining here in this race, and now down the hill, looking towards the Hislop chicane, and of course Knickerbrook Corner, which is named quite aptly because when they were digging up this circuit, they actually found a pair of knickers down in the brook there on the right-hand side.
Well, I actually didn't know that fact, so I'll add that one to my journal of facts about this circuit. I'm keeping a firm eye, though, at the moment, would you believe, on Muscat. Gap is now starting to fall considerably versus De Battista. That is actually potentially... it's a bit of an outside shot with 6 minutes to go. May offer Manduka a little bit of a reprieve in knowing that maybe, just maybe, he might be able to close up the gap to Muscat, and maybe Muscat feels the pressure and makes more mistakes. It's all about the head game. When the gap is this large now, it's about playing with the mind and making sure that you are focused on the goal, which is getting to the end without a mistake.
Well, I go back because we are on the greatest weekend of motorsport back to 1988 and Ayrton Senna versus Alain Prost, and that massive gap that was there for Senna, and he put it in the wall with 11 laps to go. Sahel now comes in for the drive-through, so that will bring Gap back through then into position. He goes flying on by. There are the pit crews there on the left-hand side, talking away as they always do to the drivers there that are involved, as David Velladingley, remaining close to Gabriel Quattromani, finds himself there. But to go and talk on that point again, it's a case of you can't win the race now. You're too far back with too little time remaining. You're praying for a mistake. The only thing you can do is drive your quickest.
5 minutes to go. Pit window now closed. No issues again. Everyone's serving their pit stop. That's why you've got the green bars across all of the 15 remaining drivers in this race. We've lost one, of course, through disconnection. On board with Cassar, who's trying to put pressure on Lafayette at the moment. Remember, they might have the same livery of just a total black car, but of course this is Project Aversio versus Intercomp out there at the moment. So these are racing for position, and Lafayette could really do with holding on to P7, but as it stands so far, looks like Cassar is just going to get the move done.
Oh, and this is right in front of the race leader here. So Aaron De Battista's in the middle of this, and Lafayette did well. She did to stay out of trouble through the island corner, and as such, move is made. Sean Cassar up to 7th position, but now at threat of being lapped there by Aaron De Battista's Audi, which looks to try and rush on up the top of the hill, looking over towards that next corner, lets him go over the top. So crucially gets that clearance, had the gap to allow that to go, but there for Sean Cassar, it's a case now he can piggyback off of Aaron De Battista and build this gap in the final 3 minutes 45.
Yeah, really wise way to just let him through and minimise the time lost in letting him through. But Lafayette now down to 8th place, but will still gain on Bartzic. But Bartzic just took it in behind Gap now 2.6. It's important Lafayette recognises that, because Bartzic will be very happy to find all the positions. Now, as I say that, he's onto the grass. Oh, and he's spun. And that will be over and done with in that position. And that battle with Lafayette, he's going to be losing time, losing positions and losing points. And he'll be falling down the standings as a result.
Well, crucially, Quattromani's nowhere near close enough to capitalise. So for Bart, that's going to hurt. It's going to be one where you say it's pride, it's ego that gets damaged out there. So for Bart Schurz, 9th place, but 3 minutes to go. Just hold it on the island, and it's been a case of everybody's been trying to rattle about with coracles out there on track. But Aaron De Baptista's been given a speedboat.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame there for Bartjes as well, because he's had a cracking race in that BMW. He's definitely been managing to overdrive and overperform in that car. But a speedboat indeed for the Audi of De Baptista. No issues whatsoever. There's a lap car behind him. Gap now 8.5. 2.5 minutes in to go. It's all going to be about making sure he just gets to the end of this race. Championship leader for a reason, and absolutely flying high in the Intercom VMD Sim Sport Audi. Great stuff.
And De Baptista knows that this is a race today that puts him in the championship lead. Should he be able to convert from this position, he has staved off every challenge that has been there in front of him at a sodden Oulton Park here today, a circuit where, very much like Lime Rock Park, as its American counterpart, you can't actually race on Sunday. It's a rule to do with the churches that they want to keep that day sanctimonious. That's De Baptista sliding through Druids, and that would have been the one blip on the radar we've seen all day long.
Yeah, one spin and you'll be losing 8 or 9 seconds, and he's got 9 seconds to Muscat, so he could afford potentially one little half spin potentially. He's got to just make sure he doesn't go too hard. He's got the fastest lap as well, so he's got absolutely nothing to fight for here. He just needs to just get the race and get all the way to the end here. We're following now Abdul Moez Sahel as he's trying to get back on Gat. This is going to be a bit of what will be a revenge, a bit of reprieve versus him and Gat, because of course he was the one that he was battling with when that spin occurred. So he wants to try and get past this Lamborghini. He's made a mistake. He's going to go out wide. Here comes the Ferrari. Is he going to get that revenge? He certainly will. Great stuff for Abdul and Moez Sahel. Great stuff.
That was a much-needed pass, and the pace was certainly, from a mile back. He'll go sailing on, going through. But now as he rejoins the circuit, allows that place to be taken back by Sahel, and the pass now is confirmed as they now climb up the hill towards Clay Hill once again. So Abdul Moez Sahel does get that pass sorted in the final minutes of this race, and so now it's a question of how do you hold on to it, and I think Abdul Muez is doing just enough to do that. 8 seconds is the gap at the front. We're down to the final half a minute then of this race, and up the hill now for what will be the final time, we believe, is Aaron De Baptista as he now runs into Druid's corner. Remember, when that clock expires, it's a case of immediately get to the line. That's the end of the race, and with just 5 seconds to go and 1 corner left, it couldn't be more perfect to finish this race. Aaron De Baptista knew that after not getting a podium last time out, he needed to respond. This one, with his water wings afloat, is the big one. Picks up his second win of the season and dominates here today around this Oulton Park circuit. His teammate Sheldon Muscat will get a 3rd podium this season, a 2nd for him, and Adrian Manduka finds himself in 3rd, damage limitation.
Yeah, damage limitation for Manduka, damage limitation for Kassar. Not a bad effort for P7 in the end for the McLaren. George Pash coming across the line, P4. Good effort from the Ferrari. What an effort from Maya Lafurla, though, managing to make some moves and overtake Bartjes in the standings. And then you, of course, got to consider the likes of James Smith in P6. He's up to P5, and with Sean Kassar's poor performance tonight, he might just be overtaking him for P4 in the standings. That could be critical as we go into round 4 next week.
Yeah, and you consider we've only got 2 weeks left of racing, which means only an hour and 30 minutes left in the championship to decide the fates of everything. Midfield, top of the field, bottom of the field, you name it, out there at this point. We wait for Sahel and Gat and Borg to come towards the line. They are the final 3 cars out there who are still circulating, and Gat taking, I would say, the rallycross route there, going through at Druid's corner, essentially going foraging, I would say, with Johan Borg there in 14th position, who I think is going to be unable to close down in on the Lamborghini of Gat, who is there and holding station. But a strong race showing up at the front. Some very good results like George Page and Denzel Agis. They'll be very happy with what they've been able to do. Johan Borg will be the last car over the line, then confirming the race results out there overall. And so ultimately you say advantage De Baptista heading to Snetterton in 7 days.
Oh, well, he's definitely proved his point after last week, hasn't he? Great effort indeed from Aaron De Batista. Has got people just celebrating, doing what they want now in the walls. The race is done and dusted. What an effort indeed from the championship leader. Puts a bit of pressure on Manduka now, who finishes in P3. It's a good effort, actually, from that Ford Mustang. Muscat also in a little bit of a good position where P2 might be overtaking Manduka. Might not be. I'll try and figure out the points in my mind at the moment. But for me, it's that midfield battle. Kassar down in 7th place is critical for the likes of James Smith, who might just be overtaking him in the standings. There's only 2 points going into this race. George Pash, great race from him as well. And Maya Lafurla as well. Real mixed bag in the midfield. Fantastic. Looking forward to round 4.
Absolutely, we are, and we know how critical it is that these final 2 rounds are executed to the best of driver ability, and you can only catch that with us here with Velocity Esports Racing. James, when it comes to Snetterton, it is the 300 layout that's going to be run, so it is the all-important big run out there as a circuit goes. So it's long, it's looping, it does have opportunities to overtake through Brundle Corner into Nelson and over from Riches into Wilson, turns 1 and 2. It's a place where you've got a lot of different skills where we haven't actually had them tested so far this season.
Riches and Montreal is where we're going to be sort of seeing, especially on lap 1, where things are going to get really intense. Because, of course, going round there, you're going to have people with such a mixed variety of cars that are so good in certain conditions. So if it's a dry race, surely this is where the Mustang is probably going to be at its best, especially coming out of Murray straight into Riches. Fast right-hander, going to be an absolute blinder. Manduka could be straight back into it. You only got to watch it next week.
Yep, and you can only catch it with us here at Velocity Esports Racing. Do all the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you share to all of your friends that this is where great sim racing comes to life. The MOZA Racing Malta GT Cup is powered by Intercomp. It's in collaboration with GamingMalta, Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, JACAP, and GX Trust. From James Otter and myself, Jake Sperry, it's about understanding the lay of the land. On a sodden day in Cheshire, it's a day in which Aaron De Batista steps up again and says, I might be a little inconsistent, but I've got 2 wins to everybody else I'm fighting with's none. And that says I am top billing at this point. When it comes to where we go from the hills that we've dealt with over, of course, in Cheshire, we now move to almost Pancake Flat, the former airfield base then of Snetterton awaits. Round 4 of the championship is still on, and it's still between 3 different drivers.
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavor, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.